Navigating the Arkansas family court system can honestly feel like being dropped into a giant maze without a map. Between all the legal jargon, the endless paperwork, and, the super high emotional stakes, it's really easy to get totally overwhelmed. But as we're going to see in today's explainer, the rules of the road are actually much clearer than you might think. Whether you're trying to figure out your legal rights, your financial duties, or just how you get to spend time with your kid, the state of Arkansas has a very specific playbook. So we're going to walk through it step by step together so you know exactly where you stand. Okay, let's dive right into this. We've got 4 main pillars to cover today. 1, the people and the rules. 2, the money. 3, the time. And finally, 4, the what-ifs.
All right, starting with section 1, the people and the rules, where we're going to define the parties involved.
So in literally every Arkansas child support case, you've got 4 main players. First up is the custodial party, or CP for short. They're the ones living with the child and managing all the day-to-day care. Then you've got the non-custodial parent, the NCP. They don't live with the child full-time, but they completely share the strict legal responsibility to provide financial and medical support. Right in the middle, of course, are the children who are legally entitled to support from both parents. Now, here is the critical 4th player that trips a lot of people up, the OCSE, which is the Arkansas Office of Child Support Enforcement. A lot of folks kind of assume the OCSE represents the custodial parent. They absolutely do not. The OCSE represents the state of Arkansas's interest in enforcing court orders. Think of them as a totally neutral umpire. They don't represent mom, they don't represent dad, they just represent the state making sure the child is taken care of.
Now, if you're a non-custodial parent in Arkansas, you're operating under a very specific balance of rights and responsibilities. On the right side, you legally get access to your child's school records, unless a judge specifically takes that away. You also have the right to be notified of any OCSE action on your case, the right to use mediation services if there's a visitation dispute, and you can even request a formal review of your support amount every 3 years. But, and this is a big but, those rights are directly tied to your mandatory responsibilities. You absolutely must pay the ordered support. You have to keep the court and the OCSE updated immediately if you move or change jobs. And crucially, you must attend all scheduled court appearances. And actually, speaking of court appearances, that brings us to one of the absolute most dangerous traps you can fall into, the default judgment. Look, if you get served with a complaint in summons, you usually have exactly 30 days to file a formal answer with the circuit clerk. If you just ignore the paperwork or if you simply don't show up to a hearing, the judge is not going to wait around for you. They will just enter a default judgment. What does that mean? It means major, highly binding, long-term legal decisions about your money and your kid are going to be made completely without your input. So avoiding court, never ever a valid legal strategy in Arkansas. But hey, before we get too bogged down in all the heavy legal machinery, we need to bring this back to the human element. The handbook from the Department of Finance and Administration actually reminds us that providing support isn't just some legal burden. It's really about securing your child's day-to-day needs and ultimately securing their future. Stepping up to these responsibilities strengthens your relationship with your child. It's a tool for their well-being, not just a bill to pay. Let's move to our second pillar and see how this builds. Section 2, the money. We're looking at support in the income shares model. All right, so since July 2020, Arkansas has used what's called the income shares model to calculate child support. The core idea here is pretty fascinating. It says a child should receive the exact same proportion of parental income that they would have gotten if both parents still lived under one roof. So how does the actual math work? It's 3 steps. Step 1, the court lumps the gross incomes of both parents together. Step 2, they look at the official family support chart to find the basic support amount for that combined income. And step 3, they prorate each parent's share based on what percentage of that total income they bring in. Oh, and every single order has to cover medical support too, so you might have to provide a health insurance policy or chip in for the monthly premiums. Now, I need you to pay super close attention to this next rule because it catches so many well-meaning parents off guard. If your court order tells you to pay your child support through the Arkansas Child Support Clearinghouse, you must do exactly that. If you just hand the other parent cash or, Venmo them directly, Arkansas courts can legally consider that money a gift. Literally a gift. Which means you won't get any legal credit for the support you just paid, and you're still gonna owe that exact same amount to the clearinghouse. You could literally end up paying twice. Bottom line, always follow the exact payment directions in your order. So how does the money actually change hands? Well, the most common way is income withholding, meaning it just comes straight out of your paycheck. Now, keep in mind, this is standard practice under state and federal law if you're employed. It's not a punishment at all. But what about fees? That's what this $2.50 number is all about.
Arkansas law allows your employer to charge a maximum fee of $2.50 per withholding just to cover their administrative costs. The OCSE doesn't charge you a dime for the service, but your employer legally can, up to that tiny cap.
Shifting gears now, let's dive into our third pillar, Section 3, the time. This covers custody, visitation, and best interests. So, the really crucial point here is that Arkansas law views money and time as two entirely separate things. They are independently enforceable. A custodial parent absolutely cannot deny you your court-ordered visitation time just because you're behind on child support. No way. And on the flip side, you cannot just stop paying your child support because you're being unfairly denied visitation. If either of those things happens, you don't take the law into your own hands. You have to rely on the courts or an attorney to enforce the specific, separate order that's being broken.
When it comes to actually deciding who gets custody, there's been a pretty massive shift recently. Arkansas law is totally gender neutral now, and as of 2021, they use a joint custody presumption. Basically, when a judge is making an initial custody decision, the law automatically presumes that giving joint custody is the best thing for the child. Now, it's what they call a rebuttable presumption. So if there's clear evidence of, say, domestic violence, or if a parent is completely unfit, the judge will absolutely step in and award primary or sole custody. But the starting line? It favors maximizing equal time with both parents. Ultimately, though, every single decision a judge makes about custody or visitation boils down to one simple legal standard: the best interests of the child. They're not sitting there trying to figure out who's at fault for a divorce. Nope. They are completely focused on the child's welfare and stability. Judges heavily weigh things like how well the kid is adjusted to their home and school, the mental and physical health of everybody involved, and this is a big one, how willing each parent is to encourage a loving relationship between the child and the other parent. Even if someone wants to move out of state, the judge is going to scrutinize the real reason for the move and look at the opportunities in the new location, all through that same best interest lens. Now, if joint custody isn't awarded, the non-custodial parent is still entitled to reasonable parenting time. Arkansas courts really favor schedules that guarantee frequent continuing contact. Obviously, every case is unique, but a super common standard visitation schedule you'll see looks something like this: the first and third weekends of every month, alternating major holidays, so Thanksgiving one year, Christmas the next. You usually get extended multi-week blocks during the summer, and dedicated weekends for Mother's Day and Father's Day, meaning the parent being celebrated typically gets the kid for that weekend, no matter whose normal rotation it is. All right, entering our final pillar for this explainer. Section 4, the what-ifs, covering modifications and enforcement. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this specific 20% threshold. Look, court orders are not set in stone forever, but you can't just change them on a whim. However, if your gross income goes up or down by 20% or more, that specifically triggers your legal right to request a formal review and adjustment of your child support order. And remember, you also have the right to ask for a review once every 3 years, regardless of what your income is doing. But actually getting an order modified, whether it's for money or time, means you have to follow a very strict legal process. Step 1, you have to prove to the court that a material change in circumstances has happened since the last order was signed. We're talking a major job loss, moving far away, or real safety concerns. Step 2, if it's about custody, you have to prove the change actually serves the child's best interests. And step 3, you have to file a formal petition to modify in circuit court. And guys, here is the golden rule. You are 100% responsible for paying your current support amount until a judge officially puts ink to paper and signs a new order. You can't just stop paying because you lost your job and filed some paperwork. The old order is the law until the new order is signed. And if you decide to just kind of ignore your obligations, the Arkansas Handbook has a very blunt, very real warning for you. Avoiding child support enforcement is likely to make your situation worse. Hoping your arrears are just going to magically vanish or pretending the OCSE will stop calling, that is not a legal strategy. It's just a fast track to some really severe consequences. Because when these court orders are broken, the OCSE has a totally formidable toolbox to enforce them. If you don't pay, they can hit you with massive administrative penalties. We're talking suspending your driver's license, your professional business licenses, even your hunting and fishing licenses. They can legally intercept your state and federal tax refunds before they ever hit your bank account. They can put liens on your personal property. And ultimately, you could be found in contempt of court, which literally gives the judge the power to lock you in jail until you make a required purge payment. And if you think unpaid child support just sits there as a static number, you really need to know about this figure. Under Arkansas law, unpaid child support automatically accrues interest at an annual rate of 10%.
10%. That means your debt is going to significantly compound over time. Even if your child turns 18 and legally emancipates, if you still have an unpaid balance, you'll just keep paying your regular monthly amount until that entire balance, plus all that accrued interest, is completely paid off. So the Arkansas family court system is undeniably strict, right? And its enforcement tools are seriously powerful. But at the end of the day, it's a system built on clear, definable rules, all pointing toward one singular goal, the best interest of the child. The maze definitely has a map. So the question is, now that you know exactly what your rights and responsibilities are, how will you use this knowledge to actively secure your child's future? Stay organized, be proactive, and remember, participating in this process is literally one of the most important ways you can show up for your kids. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.